now tuned into the greatest.
Peace up, A-Town.
This is it. Allow me to reintroduce myself.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to The Conversation with Khalif. I am your host, of course, Khalif like a leaf on a tree. And today, we have a very exciting conversation. We have a very heartfelt conversation today. I'm having a conversation with Christian Javier, who is one of my good friends. And we are talking about what led to their detransition. We're talking about life before, during, and after transitioning. This is going to be very, very sensitive. So a little bit of a trigger warning in for anyone out there of the trans experience. You may or may not feel a little triggered by some of the topics we're discussing today, but I'm just gonna go right ahead and get into it. So everyone, please welcome to the conversation, Christian Javier.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm excited.
I'm gonna try so hard not to let my little Nicki Minaj accent come through. I've been listening to too much Nicki Minaj lately. And it's just like, you know,
the Queen Radio Demon is coming out of
you. The Queen Radio Demon is just coming out of me. But yeah, so before we get started, I want you to introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and what your pronouns are.
Well, my name is Christian Javier. A lot of people may know me from Clubhouse as the intuitive hottie, you know, because a lot of people seek for my services as a spiritual, I would like to say a spiritual hottie. I don't really like to call myself like a guru or shit like that because I still have a lot of things to learn. I'm only 26, like, anyways. I'm from the Bronx, born and raised, and I'm still currently living in New York. And I'm just here to I don't know, give people clarity.
Ew. Oh, wait, did you say your pronouns?
Oh, my pronouns, they differ, but I always tell people is a they, them, he, his, she, her, whatever.
So all of the things
like you
is
can
what it's
sit
giving.
down, right? You can sit down and play with my pronouns. I'm totally okay with that. Yeah, I'm totally fine with whatever people want to call me.
Perfect. So, I want to start off by asking you, since today, I'll give a brief disclaimer. Today, what we're not giving and what we are giving. What we're not giving is typically when you hear stories about detransitioning, it's encouraging anti-trans type of legislation and anti-trans propaganda. That ain't what it's giving. You know, you already know that's not what it's giving. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. But what we are talking about today is just your journey, Christian. And life is a journey. So that's what we're talking about. So I want to start off by talking about what it was like for you growing up in the Bronx.
Growing up in the Bronx, I would like to say that I'm from an area that's not too crazy. There's a lot of older people, and you know, when there's a lot of like old people in your vicinity, it's not like, it doesn't get too wild, you know? So growing up in the Bronx, it was really, really interesting, especially since I was in private school, and you know, like I was just like, I don't live in a crazy area. It wasn't too wild. I had a good childhood. I would definitely say that. But as I was trying to come into myself and realize who I was, because, you know, that did happen at a young age, I started, you know, just picking at myself and just noticing that there were certain things about me that weren't as common with other little boys. I was just like, something is different about me. You know, so growing up in the Bronx with that mindset, it was very scary. It was absolutely terrifying. That's what I'm gonna say.
So you said you were noticing things about yourself that weren't common. What were those things that you were noticing about yourself?
Because I had little brothers always around me. Sorry. I had younger brothers always around me, and younger, you know, little cousins who were born biologically male. I always noticed that I wasn't as masculine as them, you know, especially at a very young age. Like they would talk about cars, they would talk about girls, they would talk about like, I don't know, like things that little boys would talk about. And I was just like, like I kind of don't fit that. Like like I'm interested in other things. Like I like playing with dolls. I like, Barbie movies. I like brats and shit like that. Like I was always kind of like, I like, I swear to God, I've noticed it at the age of like 5. I was like, maybe I was born in the wrong body. And I
Mm.
remember always falling asleep and thinking that I was gonna like wake up as a girl. And there was times in my childhood as well where I felt masculine at some points, like I did want to talk about games, like I wanted to talk about video games, I wanted to talk about toys, like that pertain to the males, quote unquote, society's norm. I did want to play with cars, play with like GI Joes and like guns and shit like that. So it was a very confusing childhood, I would say, because it's kind of like I felt that femininity inside of me, but I also had days where the masculinity always bursted out as well.
Yeah, I for
Yeah.
one definitely. I mean, I am one of the OGs when it comes to playing with brat dolls. Man, them doggone
Okay.
brat dolls were so cute. And if you notice today, like the girls, like when they do their makeup, they kind of look like brat dolls sometimes, which I think is so fab.com.
I was obsessed. To this day, I still kind of like be doing my makeup and like I still be trying to like mimic a male Bratz doll. Or if not, like I was so obsessed with like my scene dolls. I remember I begged my father for him to get me a collection of those dolls for Christmas. And that's when my father kind of like realized that there was something, like something different within me, but he never judged me. That's the thing. I've never had parents that were as judgmental as certain people that I know.
Mhm.
Um, he never judged me for it. And he was more curious as to understanding why I was a boy and why I wanted to play with dolls, why I wanted dolls and things like that. So they found me a family therapist, and the therapist told my father at a young age, "Hey, listen, your son might be transgender." You
How old
know,
were you when you heard that for the first time?
I was like 6 or 7. Yeah, I was 6 or 7. I had very feminine ways. And when I speak about feminine ways in a child, like I was, you know, like I was kind of like very like flamboyant. I was very like rainbows and sunshines and skipping through the halls and things like that. Um, she had told my father that I was transgender and that within time, I would probably want to transition. So my father, he completely understood at the time because my father is Indian. In Indian culture, they believe in transgenderism. You feel me? They believe
Mm.
in it's called the third sex, and they're called hijras in Indian communities, and they're often considered a blessing because it's kind of like you have both divine masculine and divine feminine in one body. A lot of the times when babies are born, hydras go and they bless the child, and the child is supposedly set up for good luck and good fortune in the future as they continue to grow older. So my father he was okay with it. He was a little disappointed because he just wanted to continue his lineage of boys. My
Yeah.
father only has boys. Like it's 14 of us and 9 of us are boys.
So he was like, he was like, I just can't get enough. He was like, I gotta have all boys.
Yeah, swear to God.
It's interesting
9 of us are boys.
what you were saying
Mhm.
about like going back to something you said earlier about like the toys that you like to play with and stuff. And it's interesting
Yeah.
because I look back and think about how certain toys were pushed on certain genders, but like for me, I loved playing with Superman, and I loved also playing with not Barbie, the Bratz dolls, because we didn't really have my sister didn't have Barbies. I used to play with my sister's doll's hair and cut it and do different things with it. And I think it's
Hmm.
interesting because more so nowadays, parents, at least the parents that I'm seeing, I'm speaking from, shout out to my sister. She's an amazing mother. And she lets my niece play with whatever toys she wants to. My niece loves to play. I have a toy car that I had growing up, And my niece, I mean, of course, I don't play with it now. I'm an adult, but now I'm noticing my niece loves to play with that car. And it's not a thing of like, oh, that's masculine or feminine. It's just a car, it's just a toy. And I feel like, I don't know, I don't think my mother ever pushed certain toys on me. I never had a Bratz doll. It was always me playing with my sister's toys. But that was back in the day. But when did you first realize that? Well, you were told, like, you say you were 6, correct? When
Yeah.
So when did you start wanting to actually do a physical transition?
Mm. This is where it gets interesting. I would say definitely at the age of 12. I remember I was in 7th grade, and this is how I knew in particular that I wanted to transition. Um, I was in 7th grade. I had a whole bunch of female friends. Like, I only hung out with girls in the 7th grade because it was kind of like, mm, I felt very, very comfortable with the girls, and like I understood them. I wanted to like talk about the things that they were talking about. So one day we were having lunch in school, and I would sit in a table full of girls and we would just chit chat, whatever. After the bell rang, because in my school this is how it worked, like we would be at lunch, and then when the bell rang, that means you have 2 minutes to get to your destination, which means like to your next class.
Mhm.
So what we would do basically is like go to the bathroom within those 2 minute period, and we would literally just go to class afterwards. But the girls got up, whatever. We throw our lunch away, we walk, whatever. The girls are like, okay, we're going to the bathroom. So I literally didn't notice that I walked into the girls' bathroom with them. And I was just like, oh my God, I literally completely forgot that I'm supposed to be using the boys' bathroom. Like, what the fuck am I doing? So then I remember just walking out of the bathroom, and they were just over here having so much fun, like talking and everything. And I was just like, oh, I gotta go into the fucking boys' bathroom. I'm so upset. I'm pissed. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror. I was like, what if I am a girl? Like deep down inside, what if this is what I'm meant to be? What if I'm supposed to be a girl and I'm just in the wrong body?
Mm.
So I lived with that for a very, very long time, especially, being so young and just hearing, hey, listen, your son might be transgender. Like all of those things played in my head at that point. And it was kind of like, I really felt like, hey, that's what I just have to do. I have to transition. I have to do it. Like I have to turn into a girl. That was just my belief at the time, just having a 12-year-old mindset. And I remember I started doing my little research on my computer. I was looking it up, like how to change your sex and things like that, because again, it's a 12 years. I was 12 years old. So
Mhm.
I didn't really know how to properly like look into that. So, I was just looking at YouTube videos of transformations and things like that. And I was very intrigued. I was super intrigued about it. And yeah, that's how it happened. It started when I walked into the girls' bathroom with a whole bunch of girls. And I walked out and I was like, oh, fuck. I gotta go into the boys' bathroom.
Wow. So
hmm
when was the not I don't, oh gosh, I don't want to give the Ricky Lake or the Oprah circa early 2000s of like what you girl, what you get done, you had, I don't want to ask, I don't want to be that girl, but
Oh, feel free. I
child,
love being
no,
open.
people's private parts are private parts. I mean, it's not my
Mhm.
business or whatever, nobody's business. But when did you like start to physically transition, and what was that like for you?
So I started to physically transition in the summer of 2013. I was 17 at the time. I was about to like graduate high school. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come out with a bang. I'm gonna show everybody who I really am. I'm gonna do it all. Because the thing is that when I got to high school at the age of 14, I was just like, you know what? My hair was like already long. I was like, I'm gonna let it grow out. I'm gonna shave any type of body hair. Mind you, I didn't develop facial hair until like just recently. It was after I detransitioned that I started growing out facial hair and I started growing out all of my body hair. But even before I transitioned, I didn't have none of that. I was very soft in a sense. I started developing way different than other boys. Like I noticed that like my brothers would get like deep voices. Boys were bulking up and I was just like, bitch, why am I getting softer? Like I started growing breast tissue out of nowhere, but it was because I was overweight. I was obese. I started growing a lot of breast tissue. I started growing hips. My hair got longer and my skin got softer. And I was just like, okay, wait. Life is trying to tell me that maybe I should transition. Mind you, I was with the same therapist that had spoken to my dad about me being trans at a young age. So when I started developing differently than other boys, when when I was going through my puberty, I was just like, okay, yeah, this is a clear sign that I'm supposed to transition. Like I'm meant to be a girl. Like, so I'm just gonna fucking do it at the age of 17. So, at the age of 17, I had super long hair down to like my ass. And then, I had hips and everything and breasts. A lot of people thought I was a girl already. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go back in this, like my senior year of high school, and I'm going to come back as a girl. I'm going to come back completely transition. I'm going to take my moans the whole entire summer. I'm going to do everything that I got to do. And I'm just going to change my life because this is what I really feel like I am. I feel like I'm a girl. Like, so I started to transition at the age of 17 in the summer. And when I came back in September, everybody was just like, wow, what the fuck? Like, I had developed a little bit of breast tissue. My face had gotten softer. Everything about me was just very, very, very soft. So I was just like, I was at my prime. It started at 17. I was at my prime.
Well, I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back from the break, I want us to talk about a little bit more about your transition. And then I want to also start talking about your detransition.
You're listening to The Conversation with Khalif.
All right, so we are back with Christian Javier right here on The Conversation. I hope y'all are really enjoying today's conversation. Right now, we're talking about your transition and detransition. So I want to just go right into it with at what point in your transition did you realize that you were maybe not, I don't want to say on the path that you're I don't know how to exactly phrase that. When did you realize it's just not giving what you thought it was supposed to give, or whatever your reasoning behind it?
So I would definitely say it was at the age of 22. That was when I completely detransitioned. Mind you, I was already sitting, like I was moaned out, like, I was getting ready to have a breast augmentation because I had a lipo at 21. So I had, fulfilled a little bit of my surgery experience and everything. I feel like that was all that I needed in order for me to really just sit down and, start living life with a more, just like a better view, I would say. So I was going to have a breast augmentation at the age of 22. And I just remember, wow, this is where it gets intense. I just remember I was in an abusive relationship. And I remember just really sitting down and hearing the person that I love, like, you will never be like, a woman. You would never be like someone that is just, I don't know, like acceptable in society. I remembered all of those things just replaying in my head. And I was just at one point, I was just like, maybe this is not for me. Like this whole lifestyle, me living as a woman, maybe it's just not meant for me. Due to the simple fact that, like, as those 6 years of me being in the body that I thought I was supposed to be in, I would still have certain moments where it was kind of like, is this really me? Like I remember I would look into the mirror, I would like play with my hair and everything, and I was just like, I just want to express my masculinity too. There's still a certain type of masculinity that lives within me that I feel like I want to project to the world. But I can't do that now since I'm living in the body of a woman, you
Mm.
know?
It's
I can't
interesting that you feel that way, or felt that
Mhm.
way, because I feel like a lot of people, whether they're um, a woman or a man, feel like they have a difficult time navigating their feminine energy for men and their masculine energy for women. So it's interesting that
Right.
you said that. But go ahead.
It was very difficult for me because there were a lot of times that I did want to express myself in a masculine way. And it was just like, I didn't want to confuse people. I didn't want to sit down and like have people like, what the fuck are you trying to be? Like, you're already trans. So it's kind of like, why are you being masculine? I didn't want to sit down and do it to myself, you
Mm,
know? So it was kind of like, I battled a lot within those 6 years with my femininity and my masculinity. And I started getting like this dysphoria of myself. Every time I would look into the mirror, like I would see like manliness and things like that. And people would always tell me, like, your face is sitting, like, you're good. Like, everything about you is good. You're okay. Like, you got your surge, you're tucked and sucked. Like, there's nothing that, you know, you're good. But I was just always like, no, like it's deeper than that. And I felt like when I transitioned, like I was fully living myself, like I was fully living as my true self. But to be honest with you, when I transitioned and a period of time went by, I realized that I wasn't really living my true authentic self.
mm,
I felt like, damn, there's still that masculinity that lives within me. So, just going through that and being in an abusive relationship where someone is telling you, like, you will never be a woman and things like that, that shit really does get to you. So at the age of 22, 2 months before my breast augmentation surgery, I just remember I was just like, I'm not feeling like myself. That whole entire week, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna express my masculinity because I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling like myself. I'm gonna do something that is gonna just make me feel comfortable. So what I started doing, I started, like dressing up in like boy clothes and things like that. I would have like masculine moments where I would just like, I don't know, like I would just do things that would alter that experience. And I just realized that I got like I was really comfortable with expressing the double side of myself, like the femininity and the masculinity. And I was just like, I feel like I did the wrong thing. Not saying like this is a lot of people's experiences because it's not, it's just mine because this is how I found out that I was non-binary, so this is not everybody experiences, it's just mine. I realized that I realized that I transitioning wasn't my thing. Like it wasn't where I belonged. It wasn't where my soul belonged.
mm.
It's a lot of people, like it's a lot of people's journey, and it's where certain people belong, but it was just not mine.
So
Because
how much
mhm,
of outside, because I don't want to jump and assume, but you said you were in a toxic relationship with someone who was constantly tearing you down about your identity.
mhm.
Um, how much of that outside influence from that person and other people influence your, I mean, how much do you think it influenced your decision to like detransition? Because I can't speak for your experience, but in my mind, I'm thinking like, I'm wondering, yeah, that's the question I want to ask.
Yeah.
How much of that was really influenced by your own internal dialogue versus the external dialogue from other people?
Right. So one thing about me is I have very, very tough skin. And I developed that with, just me transitioning at a very young age and hearing people say everything that they want to say about me. So I've heard it all. And it's kind of like, I learned how to grow from it and how not to react and how not to just, how not to care for another person's opinion. There wasn't a lot of outside influences um, influencing me. It was just that one particular relationship where I felt like I really did love this person. And it was kind of like, yeah, hearing that from a person that you love is kind of like, it really just, it has a way of making you feel like shit.
Mhm.
So it wasn't a lot of influences, but that particular experience with that person pushed me to a whole new level where I saw myself at a different angle. That's what I would say. But yeah, a
So,
lot. Mhm.
how long did you stay with that person?
Ooh, I was with that person since the age of 19. So I actually knew him before I was 19. I knew him when I was 18, and then we got together at the age of 19. And then I spent a while with him until the age of 22. Yeah.
And that's
So it
when
was a
you
lot.
all, is that when you all broke up?
Yeah, that's when I broke up with him. And then I kind of was just like, in the midst of the breakup, that's when I did my detransition. Hmm.
Mhm. It's interesting how like you really discover sometimes who you are once you break up with people or whatever. Like I can say from my own experience, I really dove really heavy into my um into not into my non-binary transition, but like cuz yeah, my non-binary transition because it's always been a more of a mental transition in my mind and what things of that nature. But it's interesting how I really discovered who I was, especially being in a pandemic. Back in the early stages of the pandemic, I really discovered who I was once I detached from like the toxic nature of a relationship. I feel like anytime a relationship is fizzling out and you stay in that joker, it's toxic. But
It is. It's very toxic.
so I want to talk about what has been the greatest joy for you uh as far as, well, not just in the detransitioning process, but also if we can go back a little into the transition when you were transitioning physically, what were some of those joy moments that you experienced, and what are the joy moments that you're experiencing now?
Mhm. So definitely one of the joy moments was the idea that I had completely found myself. That was a moment where I just felt like I was observed. I mean, I was observing myself at just a whole nother level. And I felt really, really good about myself. That was the joy moment for me. But the joy moment that I currently have right now is the fact that I am able to fully express my femininity and my masculinity without having to, I don't know, without having to just live a whole nother lifestyle that isn't meant for me. I basically was kind of like, if there, if there's anything that I'm trying to give with this story is I just want people to realize that non-binary people exist. You
Mhm.
know, we are often con- we're often put in the box of trans experiences, and it's kind of like I completely disagree with that because again, I have so much respect for the trans community. Like it is ridiculous the things that the trans community has to put up with and the things that they go through, and a lot of the times like trans people don't really have that community and that backup, and oftentimes they have a, I wouldn't say like lonely, but a lot of the times they're by themselves. And it's kind of like,
Would you say a lot of times you were by yourself?
yeah, like it was definitely a lonely experience. It was very, very lonely. Like I remember going to important meetings by myself. I remember doing things that were very, very important that made a mark in my life. And a lot of those things were done by myself. You know, I really didn't have any sisterhood. I didn't really have a community. I didn't really know a lot of people that were trans at the time as well. Like I just had my gay mother. But it was a very lonely journey. So I definitely do want to give a huge shout out, and I want to give cred to the trans community because it's very hard. It's very, very hard, and it does get lonely.
I just wanted to extend a quick disclaimer, re-disclaimer to everyone that these are Christians' experiences. These are Christians' experiences as a person of trans experience. And it's unique to their experience, but it does not encompass everyone within the community. I also wanted to say that I had to take this portion out because I pride myself on keeping this space pretty safe, and I did feel, even though their intent wasn't harmful, that it could have the potential to cause harm for members of the community. But if you would like to listen to that portion of this interview and many other things that we're unpacking, you can listen to the after show, which will be available shortly, or if it's not already available. Back to the show. I feel like the word of the day, if this were Sesame Street, would be truth, because it's all about living in whatever your truth is, and in living in your truth, living in the moment of whatever that truth is for you. So I feel like this journey for you has been your journey, and you needed every step of that journey to get to where you are right now. Now, 3-4 years from now, we might be having a whole different conversation. Who knows? But right now for you and your journey, I'm happy for you and your journey, because life is not like, when we talk about journey and what we're going to do with our lives, we always think it's this one destination. I'm going to do this for the next 50 years. Like, you only live once. You might as well do everything. And I mean, that don't work in here. I said, like, what was it? Last week's episode, I said, life is short. You might as well sit and play with all the dicks you can. But y'all, that ain't got nothing to do with this episode. But
I was screaming.
That's my little new favorite thing to say. But life is a journey, and there's a train on its journey. I don't know if you hear the train coming by, but it's a train.
Right. And let me tell you something.
By my house, but ciao.
I just want to thank you so much for this interview, because there has been a lot of people on Clubhouse that have been like, oh my God, like what? Like, you were trans and you detransitioned? Like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, or they probably just pay me dust. Like, you know, the girls are very known for that. The girls are known for paying the girls dust. So I feel like I never really got to express my story until now, like, you know, and that's why that's why I'm thankful for this whole entire interview. Because, you know, a lot of people from Clubhouse, they follow me on social medias, and they see that I, like, one day I'll have super long nails, and then the next day, you know, like, I'll just have a beard and I'll be showing off my masculine side with my hairy chest. And then the next second, you know, like, I might have a wig on and I'm super snatched and, you know, just feeling my oats. And it's kind of like, that's just who I am.
I'm really excited about the next generation of humans growing up, because they have a whole new set of knowledge, things that we weren't aware of. I'd never heard non-binary as a child. I don't even think it was a term. I think it was more genderqueer back then, or I don't even know if that was a term back then, child. I don't know. But I'm really excited for the next generation to not be forced and pushed into a certain binary, and just being able to encourage people, parents, educators, different people, to let people just be themselves without having to place a label on them or whatever. So I'm really excited. I'm so grateful that you were able to come on the show, child. Y'all don't know, we've been trying to do this interview for a while, child.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so happy that you were able to come on the show. We can have a conversation. And as Niley said to me the other week, we can conversate, which is actually a word. You know how language change and things of that nature. But yeah, I'm so happy that you could come on this conversation, or come have a conversation with me. And if you want to share your, your social media, your social security, whatever you feel like sharing with the people. Don't share your social security. That was a joke.
0865 92. No, let me stop.
123 Sesame Street. Okay, that's what y'all heard. Wait, that wasn't your real social security or nothing, was it?
No.
Okay, child. I was like, child, I'm not trying to have nobody steal your identity, but anyway.
Imagine.
Thank you so much for coming. Just share with the people what's your social media, and maybe if you want to share your Clubhouse or whatever.
Yes. So my social medias are, first is my Instagram at I am Christian Javier. Literally, I am Christian Javier. And my Clubhouse, you can just find me under Christian Javier. So yeah, I'm the spiritual hottie.
Damn. Well, with that, I think we are done. We did it, Joe. We did it.
Thank you so much for, providing this beautiful platform. I really wish you the best. And I hope to see you on TV.
Yes,
I want to see you on TV.
That maybe one day I will have a television show. I can see that in my future. If you could get into the future. Child.
It's going to happen.
Right.
The next Wendy Williams.
Oh,
just less
Wendy.
Controversial.
Right,
yeah.
right. I'm trying to be better. Well, that is today's episode. Big shout out to my special guest, Christian Javier. Thank you so much. And thank you, Leaf family, for tuning in to the weekly show dedicated to helping you look, feel, and be your best self. To keep the conversation going, follow me on all social media platforms. Well, not all, just 2. Follow me on Instagram at The Conversation Podcast. That's The Conversation spelled with a K instead of a C, podcast. And follow me on Twitter at They Them Khalif. That's They Them Kaleaf. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.